Podger.
Now, anyone who needs it should get a cup of tea or something.
I just gave you an extra
Thank you, Brian, for such a lovely talk. This talk is an amazing one about spiritual bravery in these times. Mine is a different one about spiritual bravery in past times. Now, you know, the country of Persia, Iran, in the mid-19th century, when the faith was born, had a governance with the Shah at the helm. The Shah was an absolute monarch. Beneath him was an administration, and many of the princes were governors of the provinces, and there was also a very powerful clergy. Persia was a stronghold for Shia Islam. Now, if you think of this whole arrangement, you will realize that at all these levels, there were only men operating. Women were almost invisible. They were mostly kept to their home, and when they did come out, they wore a long black shadow enveloping them from head to foot, and even in their own place of worship, the mosque, the women sat behind the curtain at a room to the side, and they were not allowed into the main auditorium. And so, when we come to stories from the history by chroniclers, writers, they reflect these times as much as the thoughts, opinions, actions of women were mostly not in the public eye at all. And so most of these stories are about men, apart from some notable exceptions. So when I tell you this story, you're going to think it is all about men too. But be patient, there is a surprise. So my story is about a renowned believer in the time of Baha'u'llah. You may know him well. He is the father of former Universal House of Justice member Adi Tahazadeh, and his memoirs are often quoted in Tahazadeh's wonderful accounts of Baha'i history. His name is Haji Muhammad Taher Imam Miri. Now, Haji Muhammad Taher was personally taught by Baha'u'llah how to teach the faith. However, he did not regard those who joined the faith as a result of his teaching as his achievements, but rather he saw in them the guiding hand of Baha'u'llah. At one time, Haji Muhammad Taher was traveling in the district of Yazd, which is to the south and slightly to the east of Tehran. He happened to be in the village of Manshad. His host in Manshad said he would very much like him to meet a distinguished cleric, a mujtahid called Mullah Muhammad. Now, Haji Muhammad Taher was very wary of meeting and trying to teach a member of the clergy, because it was members of this fraternity who had actively persecuted followers of the Baha'i faith. However, his host assured him that Mullah Muhammad was a good person and no problem would happen, and so he agreed. His host, Haji Muhammad Tahir's host, also explained to him that Mullah Muhammad was considered the most learned by all the clergy in Yazd. And because, in fact, when the clergy of those regions wished to become a mujtahid, or a high-ranking divine, they would spend 2 to 3 years studying in one of the holy cities of Najaf or Karbala. You know, those two cities are in the neighboring country of Iraq to the west of Iran. However, Mullah Muhammad had spent 21 years studying in Najaf, and he had 3 times been awarded the title of Mujtahid by different Shia leaders. Now, so the following evening, Mullah Muhammad, when he was regarded as an authority on religious matters, and the clergy would bring him their difficulties, their problems to explain and solve. So the following evening, Mullah Muhammad came to see Haji Muhammad Tahir. Now, compared to Mullah Muhammad, Haji Muhammad Tahir knew that he was no match in knowledge, but he was trusting in God to help him with his explanations. So he spoke for 4 hours about the faith. At the end of that, Mullah Muhammad didn't say very much, but he asked whether he could come again the next day and bring with him Mullah Ali Akbar. Now, Haji Muhammad Tahir's host knew that Mullah Ali Akbar was a difficult and argumentative person and said it might not be wise to invite him. However, Mullah Muhammad said that so long as he was there, Mullah Ali Akbar, who was his brother-in-law, would cause no harm. And so the next day, Mullah Ali Akbar accompanied him to the meeting. Mullah Ali Akbar was not a very knowledgeable person and he often confused issues. And he continuously tried to pervert the truth. So that Mullah Muhammad was saying to him, now what Haji Muhammad Tahir means is this. So the next evening, Mullah Muhammad came again by himself. He listened carefully, neither agreeing or disagreeing. And at the end of the evening, Haji Muhammad Tahir gave him a book, which was the Kitab-i-Khan, the Book of Certitude. So when Mullah Muhammad came the next evening, he said he had not been so much convinced by Haji Muhammad Tahir's explanations, but when he read this book, he could see that it was a unique and new message, and this is how he became confirmed in the faith. The next day, in the mosque, Mullah Muhammad ascended the pulpit and he announced, up until now, we have all been used to consider the Babis, as they were known in those days, as being misled. But over the past few days, I have come to realize and am now fully assured that the promised Qa'im, Messenger of God, has manifested himself. Anyone who wishes to know this may investigate and find out the truth for himself. There was a shout from the seat below the pulpit, and Mullah Ali Akbar stood up and cried out, "Jinabi Mullah, what are you saying? Do you realize that having spoken like this, you may not be allowed back into the mosque or to continue being the Imam Jum'ah?" And so Mullah Muhammad quietly replied, "I am not coming back to the mosque again." I never did. Now, this announcement caused a great surprise in the gathering. Some were dismayed, some were bewildered, many were angry. Among them were some village chiefs who were good friends of Mullah Muhammad, and they admired him, and they came to him now and said they didn't quite understand what he meant, and would he please explain a bit more to them. So Mullah Muhammad thought about this and organized a meeting in the home of one of them, Haji Qurban Ali, and said that he would invite Haji Muhammad Tahir to speak to them. Now when he told Haji Muhammad Tahir about this, Haji Muhammad Tahir thought this was not a wise thing to do. It would attract unfavorable attention of the authorities and could endanger the lives of the believers. However, Mullah Muhammad was his dear friend and a new believer. He did not want to leave him without support, and so he said he would come. Now, Mullah Ali Akbar, in the meantime, came to find out about this. He went by himself to the village chiefs and he said, "You know, it might be better if you didn't come this time. I myself will go, and I will take with me some of the clergy, and they can sort it out." And so, the next day, when Mullah Muhammad, accompanied by Haji Muhammad Tahir, arrived at Haji Qurban Ali's house, they found 35 people gathered there, divines and dignitaries of Yazd, all of them hostile to the faith. They appointed Mullah Ali Akbar as their spokesman. Now Haji Muhammad Tahir knew he had a really difficult situation on his hands. To begin with, such a meeting had never before been held in Yazd, and it would cause trouble. So he decided that he would make his points clearly, supported by sound arguments, so there would be no room for misinterpretation. So he spoke for over 4 hours. He explained the history of the faith, the history of the past religions. He demonstrated the truth of the cause of Baha'u'llah, and he presented proofs based on the Quran and the traditions of Islam. On that day, writes Mullah Haji Muhammad Tahir, God vouchsafed such confirmation and ascendancy that the cause of God was proclaimed and its proof was manifested for all. On that day, Jinabi Mullah Muhammad was transformed into a ball of fire. He was so enraptured that it is impossible for me to describe. In the evening of that day, some of the divines gathered together and they began to draft a letter to Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Isabzibari, the leading mujtahid of Yazd. They explained, Haji Muhammad Tahir has come to Manshad. He has converted Mullah Muhammad, who has now left the mosque, and in addition, Haji Muhammad Tahir has made a public proclamation to the clergy at the home of Haji Qurban Ali. What were they to do? The situation was now out of hand. Now, you must remember that in those days when messages were sent back and forth, it was usually by horseback, not instantaneously, as we do here now. So when Sheikh Muhammad Hassan had read this, he sat down and he wrote out the death warrant for Haji Muhammad Tahir. And he sent it off to the governor of Yazd. The governor of Yazd sent 2 officials to Manshad to arrest Haji Muhammad Tahir. Unfortunately, 2 days earlier, Haji Muhammad Tahir had left Manshad and he had gone to the village of Mehriz. So the Baha'is of Manshad quickly sent a message to Mehriz to tell Haji Muhammad Tahir about this, and he was able to leave before the people could arrest him. And so he escaped. Now, the divines of Islam, the divines of Yazd, it seemed to them that with Mullah Muhammad's conversion to the faith, with Haji Muhammad's Tahir's declaration to the clergy, and now with their inability to capture him, things had come to a crisis. So they made a decision to arrest 6 Baha'is of Manshad. 6 men, Baha'is, were brought to the prison. From there they were to be sent to Isfahan to an audience with Prince Masud Mirza, Zilla Sultan, the governor of the province. Now while they were in prison, one of the men, really no more than a boy, Aga Muhammad Ali, fell ill. Now, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan had a plan for these 6 prisoners to walk to Isfahan. They were all chained together, and he said that this young one who was ill would walk in front, and he would carry an extra heavy length of chain and a large spike. This was the spike that they would hammer into the ground when the prisoners came to arrest, so no one could escape. Now, when Aga Muhammad Ali's sister heard about this, she declared that she was going with these 6 men to Isfahan, and she would carry the chain and the spike. Fatima Begum was a maiden, 27 years of age. Now, as I told you, in those days women did not often venture out of the confines of their home. When they did, it was wearing a black chador, and they did not take part in public events. So her friends strongly advised her not to go. She said, "How can I let them take my brother and 5 other beloved of God while I stay here? My life is not more important than theirs. If they decide to kill them, they can first take my life, then proceed to execute the rest." And so that intrepid lady, clad in black chador from head to foot, but actually barefoot, and carrying the chain and the spike over her shoulder, walked in front of the line of prisoners, 400 kilometers all the way to Isfahan. And there she came, they all came to the audience with the Zulu Sultan. She made a plea on behalf of the prisoners. He must have been so impressed that he set them free and sent them home. Now a few years later, so maybe 2 or 3 years later, all these men, all these prisoners were martyred. Fatima Begum herself was put to death in the most humiliating manner. Her body was mistreated, and Adi Kahazari writes in his book that this is one of the most shameful episodes in the history of the faith. Now, as for Mullah Muhammad, he had left the leadership of the Muslim community when he recognized the station of Baha'u'llah. So now he was without an income, without any possessions, no way to support his family. So he became a building laborer. And he was a wonderful support and strength to the Baha'i community, but very humble and self-effacing. Now these same people who in earlier days would bow before him and regard him as their great mujtahid of Manshad, and who would flock into the mosque to hear him speak, they were now determined to take his life. So Mullah Muhammad was one of those massacred in Yazd and surrounding villages in 1903. His body was dragged through the villages and delivered to the flames. And what about Haji Muhammad Tahir? 3 of his sons were killed in that same massacre, and Abdul Baha sent him to go back to that place to look after the families of the deceased. He was put in prison for a while, but he survived and he lived to an old age, and that is how we have his memoirs and some wonderful accounts of events in those days.